When Thomas turned 82, he felt, for the first time, that age was truly catching up with him. Not long ago, he could still mow the backyard lawn with ease, fix shelves, help the neighbors, and go on morning walks with his wife. But almost suddenly, everything changed. He was constantly tired, his joints ached even in the mornings, his blood pressure fluctuated, and his memory began to fail. He started staying home more often, canceling meetings with friends. After reviewing his latest test results, the doctor quietly but firmly said, "It's time to consider home care and assistance." That phrase hit Thomas like a punch. He wasn't ready to give up. A random TV program about nutrition in old age gave him a glimmer of hope that maybe all wasn't lost. The host talked about how simple but consistent habits, especially related to diet, can make a huge difference. One line stood out to Thomas. 5 fruits a day can change not just how you feel, but how you age. At first, Thomas just shrugged. It sounded too simple. But then he thought, what did he have to lose? He wrote down the names of the fruits, made a shopping list, and asked his son to drive him to the supermarket. That was the beginning of his new daily habit. He approached it with an engineer's precision. He kept a notebook where he recorded what he ate, when and how he felt in the morning and evening. The first week brought almost no changes. He was a bit disappointed, but didn't give up. After 2 weeks, he suddenly realized he was waking up not with a heavy body, but with a light urge to get up and do something. After a month, he went into the garden and bent down, without pain, to fix a toppled flower pot. It was a small victory. When he visited the doctor again 3 months later, the doctor looked through the results and asked, "What medication are you taking?" Thomas smiled and said, "None, just 5 fruits, every day." The doctor paused. His health had improved, inflammatory markers had decreased, and his blood pressure had normalized. It seemed like a miracle, but one where every step made logical sense. Since then, Thomas has shared his experience with anyone willing to listen. "Start small," he says, "and the changes will follow." The first fruit he began with was blueberries, small, dark blue berries that became his allies in restoring mental clarity. But that's another story entirely. Blueberries were among the first fruits Thomas added to his diet, and not by chance. He had read that this humble forest berry could work wonders for memory. That particularly resonated with him. He increasingly found himself forgetting where he had left his glasses, struggling to recall familiar names, and once even walked into a room without remembering why. He had always prided himself on his logical thinking and attention to detail, crucial traits in his engineering career. That's why memory decline felt especially frightening, a reminder of the helplessness he refused to accept. He started simply with a cup of fresh blueberries every morning, strictly on an empty stomach. At first, he ate them plain. Later, he began adding a few walnuts, as experts suggested. Fats helped the body absorb the berry's nutrients more effectively. Thomas didn't expect instant results. He knew nature works slowly but reliably. But about 6 weeks in, he noticed something. His thoughts became clearer, as if a fog was lifting. He could concentrate on reading again without rereading the same paragraph. And when he effortlessly recalled a complex technical term during a conversation with his grandson, a term he hadn't used in years, he smiled. His mind was back. The story of Sharon, which he read in a senior magazine, became further proof he was on the right path. Sharon was a 74-year-old English teacher. She had faced similar struggles: forgetfulness, hesitance in speech, confusion on the street. It brought fear and sadness. One day, she came across an article about blueberries and their effect on cognitive function and decided to give it a try. It turned out to be a simple yet powerful solution. After just a month and a half, she began feeling more confident. Her speech flowed more smoothly, and her memory sharpened. Even her daughter was convinced she'd started a new medication. But all she had done was add blueberries to her morning routine. And it was enough. Thomas felt a connection to her story. He didn't see it as a coincidence, but as a pattern. Our brains, like every part of our body, need nourishment, especially as we age. And maybe they don't need complex drugs or expensive treatments. Sometimes, what nature provides is enough. He continued with faith and curiosity. His mind was improving, but Thomas knew that health is multifaceted. The next focus was the heart. It, too, needed attention. And that's when the second fruit came into play: avocado. Thomas had always considered his heart to be reliable. He never smoked, drank only occasionally, and even in old age continued to take daily walks. But age spares no one. His blood pressure became unstable. He began to feel unpleasant tingling in his chest, and during a routine checkup, his doctor warned him sternly, "With your cholesterol levels and vascular inflammation, you're at a much higher risk than you think." That was a wake-up call. He thought back to the TV program that had sparked his transformation. It had mentioned an extraordinary fruit that is often underestimated. It was Maytorpu. Avocado crol fiderm, many people avoid it, thinking it's too fatty or high in calories, but research showed the opposite. The fats in avocado are healthy for blood vessels, reduce bad cholesterol, and lower inflammation. Jordi, Thomas was intrigued, especially after reading Harold's story. Harold was his peer, 77 years old, a retired mailman. He had struggled with high blood pressure and was taking 3 different medications. Doctors were preparing to prescribe a poiety, a fourth, when he started eating half an avocado for breakfast every day. It was just an experiment, born out of desperation, without much hope. But after 3 weeks, his blood pressure dropped noticeably, and within 2 months, his readings normalized. Like with Thomas, his doctor was surprised and began reducing his medication dosage. Inspired by this example, Thomas bought a ripe avocado, sliced it in half, and placed it on whole grain toast. At first, the taste was unfamiliar, but after a few days, he got used to it. More than that, he began to look forward to breakfast. Sometimes he added a pinch of turmeric or pepper. He had read that it enhances anti-inflammatory effects. After a month, he noticed his heart felt calmer. He could handle physical activity better, felt less fatigue, and most importantly, the fear of a sudden episode faded. He took another set of tests. His cholesterol had indeed dropped, and his blood pressure had stabilized. The doctor simply shook his head and said, "If only all my patients ate like this." For Thomas, it was a proud moment. He realized that health isn't just about fighting illness. It's about caring for yourself every day, in small, consistent ways. Now, with both his brain and heart strengthened, he decided to move on. His next opponent was digestive issues, something he had battled for many years. But here, too, nature had prepared a simple, tasty, and surprisingly effective remedy: papaya. Digestion had always been Thomas's weak spot. Even in middle age, he often complained of bloating, heaviness after meals, and irregular bowel movements. With age, the problem only worsened. He had tried everything, from pharmacy medications to homemade herbal remedies, but all of it offered only temporary relief. Sometimes the discomfort was so intense that he avoided eating altogether, just to escape the unpleasant feeling. It began to affect his daily life. He was afraid to be away from home for too long, canceled plans, lost his appetite, and with it, his confidence. One evening, he read the story of Elizabeth, an elderly woman who had suffered from chronic constipation and bloating. She described how, just a few days after introducing papaya into her diet, her digestion improved and her overall well-being increased. Thomas read the account with interest. He found a ripe papaya at the store, carefully sliced and ate a small bowl after dinner. The result came quickly. Within 4 days, the heaviness disappeared. His stomach felt calmer, and, most importantly, his bowel movements normalized. It was a small but significant victory. He kept going. Every evening, a bowl of papaya, sometimes with a mint leaf, or a slice of fresh ginger, as the article had suggested. After a couple of weeks, he realized the pain in his joints, especially in his fingers, had noticeably lessened. The doctor explained that by improving his digestion, he had also reduced overall inflammation in his body. Thomas had never imagined that the gut could affect the joints, but it turned out to be true. Dinner became his favorite meal. But he didn't stop there. He kept looking for what else he could do to support his health. And he discovered 2 more important fruits. Kiwi helped him combat the insomnia that had plagued him for years. He ate 2 kiwis an hour before bed. And on the very first night, he slept 6 hours straight, a record for the past decade. Within a week, he was falling asleep quickly, without pills, and waking up feeling refreshed. His mind was clearer, and his mood improved. And red grapes became his afternoon snack. He'd read that their skins contain resveratrol, a compound that slows cellular aging. After a couple of months, Thomas had more energy. His skin looked healthier, and his joints were more flexible. 5 fruits, 5 simple steps. They weren't a magic cure, but they gave him something pills couldn't. A sense of life in a body that had become his ally once again.